Finally, the Harrell brothers have come back to their podcast. I'm Jacob Harrell.
And I'm Jonathan Harrell. The WWE was firing on all cylinders on the road to SummerSlam this week. And speaking of that, we'll be giving our picks out later with a writer from PW Mania, Will McCormick. But before we get into our headlines, I was hanging out with Ace Mob over the weekend, Jacob, and you were getting killed on. He is actually from Savannah, Georgia, and you were dropping Atlanta, Georgia. So we're gonna give just a shout out to all the people in Savannah, Georgia, just at the top of our show. To
totally different areas. I'm sorry.
But now we're going to just start off the show with the man that you crazily left off your Mount Rushmore, Hulk Hogan. The WWE threw Hogan a party at the end of Raw Monday night for his 61st birthday. We had special guest Mean Gene Okerlund, Jimmy Hart, Ric Flair, Mr. Wonderful, Rowdy Piper, and the original members of the NWO, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. And we even heard of a dark appearance from Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Did you enjoy the party, Jacob?
Yeah, I thought the party was awesome. Did you also think Mr. Wonderful was probably going to pass out and die during the show? I don't want to be mean to Mr. Wonderful fans, but he looked like he was literally Brock Lesnar was going to touch him with his finger and he would fall apart. But it was great. I liked the videos. You saw these famous people. The impact is amazing of what Hulk Hogan's had, and I think that the party reflected that.
And what was crazy to me, if you didn't see this, besides, a couple people in the ring, Hogan was majority one of the oldest people in the ring, and it sure didn't look like that. I mean, Nash was hobbling around, Hall was hobbling around. I mean, these guys have really have just aged so much from, their last appearances, and it was crazy to me to see how good of shape and how Hulk Hogan looks exactly the same back from his late WCW days.
Yeah, he's had a lot of surgeries too. The one that actually surprised me, Scott Hall looked healthy. He's had a lot of issues. We talked about that in the past. Kevin Nash, not Steve Nash. He didn't pull a quad, which is great. I think it was overall good. I was expecting when they showed all the Hulk Hogan, like him standing up with the Warrior, him standing up with Piper, all these people. I was hoping they would have shown him standing face to face with Sting, kind of promote a little bit of that 90s kind of TV ratings wars. Who was your favorite person that came on the birthday party?
I definitely enjoyed the NWO, just for, Scott Hall to get out there and do what, survey says, and, his whole bit like that. I definitely enjoyed that. What was your take on Vince McMahon doing a dark appearance and not doing it on Raw?
I think he's so dedicated to characters and continuing the story that if he would show up, he would feel like the Authority doesn't have power anymore. So I think that happened because of that, but I want to see Vince McMahon in the ring. That's what kills me. So we had a very, very, very eventful Raw. Like we talked about, Hulk Hogan had a birthday. You had matches between Roman Reigns and Randy Orton. You had Dean Ambrose popping out of a birthday gift and attacking Seth Rollins. You had Stephanie McMahon versus Brie Bella, and then Brie goes to jail. The biggest kicker of this all, Daniel Bryan had an affair with his trainer. What was the biggest thing for you?
I don't know. It's almost like they ran out of things to talk about when it came to Stephanie McMahon and Brie Bella, that they had to bring this story up. And what's bad is it was only one night, and I'm sure you won't even hear about it on SummerSlam. And so I don't know why they went that route. I did enjoy the ending with Brock Lesnar coming out, kind of, and trying to intimidate some of these older guys in the ring. And then it was funny too, John Cena sporting his new t-shirt, which is very Hulk Hogan like, red and yellow, and it looked like a young Hulk Hogan coming down there to save Macho Man or something like
Right.
that. So, but for the most part, I mean, I enjoyed it. There was a lot of good matches, and so I think it was a great build up for SummerSlam.
Right, and to go off of that with Cena, why is it every time he runs in the ring to save someone, he takes off his shirt? I mean, I asked this to Katie and my fiance, and she's like, "It's because he's good looking and you're not." And I'm like, "Well, way to throw that at me." But he always does. You watch it. He runs in, he takes off his shirt. Just keep the shirt on. It saves you less time from being mugged by Brock Lesnar in the case. So,
He's just getting straight down to business. He's like,
right,
hey, you
he's a
know,
thug.
yeah, he needs to almost rip it off like Hogan did, and I think that would be so much better just running down the ring or
He's flexing his pecs, and Brock Lesnar's like, "Really?" Also, the Randy Orton and Sheamus match, that was awesome. That match, the crowd loved it. It was almost like Randy Orton was about 10 years younger.
and they have such good chemistry together, and I think it just works well for them. I was excited to hear less and less CM Punk chants though, so that was good. We'll I guess see how far that goes, but I guess every day farther, it's a little less and a little less.
Right. If I said Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns in my introduction, I apologize.
Raw didn't really add anything to the card for SummerSlam that we didn't already know. I won't go in match by match since we're going to be doing that later, like I said, for our special segment. But what's your just overall take on the pay per view? Does it live up to, the always talked about second best pay per view on the schedule?
I don't know. I think the marketing of it has not been the greatest. So the hype isn't built up as much to me, but I also expect with a SummerSlam to have these huge marquee matches. Now, don't get me wrong. There's fantastic matches on this. It just hasn't been marketed the right way.
And it's funny too because I want to say that since the match has been named, we really haven't seen Brock Lesnar and John Cena in the ring at the same time. And so it's crazy to me that you're having this championship match where these guys haven't even put their hands on each other. Um, and then from that, you have Stephanie McMahon and Brie Bella constantly feuding back and forth, slapping each other, getting arrested, and all this stuff put into it.
All right, and that they treat that match like it's the main event. They put all their focus in it because they have no other way. You can't promote a match where one guy's away, or they're going to have vignettes and stuff, which that's great. All that is fantastic for SummerSlam because SummerSlam always has the bigger videos, but you have to have a little bit of ring wrestle in there for a wrestling promotion to thrive.
hmm And now, do you think that this is still on the level of, the second best pay per view behind Mania?
I I don't know. The Rumble is kind of turning into that just because of the match itself, but Mania hasn't really lived up to the hype. I think some of the smaller pay-per-views like TLC, Money in the Bank is really taken off to be a real fan favorite. WWE will always treat Survivor Series, SummerSlam, and Rumble and Mania in the same category as the top four, but really even Survivor Series just kind of fell off the bandwagon.
Yeah, and I think that you almost the road to WrestleMania, almost those pay-per-views on that road really feed off of WrestleMania so much that it almost elevates them just because you have the word WrestleMania attached to it.
Alberto Del Rio, you're fired. Last week, Alberto Del Rio was released from the WWE after reportedly, this is reportedly, but we have good authority on this, slapped a WWE web producer after making alleged racist joke. Was the WWE correct in releasing him? And where does Del Rio go from here? Now, remember, he cannot go anywhere to wrestle until after 60 days of his termination.
Now, see, this just sounds funny to me because these are all big guys. They're all wrestlers. I'm sure they don't get along together all the time, and you can't tell me that somebody I'm not going to name names, but somebody goes in the back, ticked off at somebody because they hit them a little bit too hard with a chair, and goes back there and just doesn't deck somebody to show them that they're upset. And so I'm just surprised about this, that getting slapped in the face cost your job.
Mm-hmm. And I've talked to people, and I've always been, when they did budget cuts, we talked about Del Rio should be released. Del Rio should be released. People are like, fire Del Rio. He's horrible. Then he gets fired for slapping someone. They're like, they're so horrible for how they treat Del Rio. So I love the fans' mixed reactions to this. But look at this and look at it in the eyes of WWE. They got everything they needed out of Del Rio. They've done all the Mexican tours, all the Hispanic events with Del Rio. His time's done with the company. They will not lose a single dime off of releasing Del Rio, so I think it is the right move.
Now, see, it is weird that, they were talking about maybe ending his contract sooner because of cuts, and then one little slip up and he's gone. And there has been rumors that I saw today that he may actually be wrestling at um, a Hispanic wrestling event on Sunday, on the same time as SummerSlam. So it'll be curious to see how the contracts, things, and everything like that goes. But you had his manager released. Alberto Del Rio's been released. Really, I mean, you're looking at Rey Mysterio left, and who knows what that's going to entail. Now, Paul Heyman has been promoting his new DVD, Ladies and Gentlemen, My Name is Paul Heyman. And when he was asked about the thoughts of the WWE and its network, he said that the network is really, in his mind, a 5 to 10 year plan, and that the WWE needs to give more can't miss events. Is he on the right track of thinking, Jacob?
Yeah, Paul Heyman's a genius. There's a reason WWE bought ECW, and it's for his mind. And I totally agree with that. It has to be a 5 to 10 year. You can't expect something that is this monumental for the industry or any industry at that matter. It's such a big gamble to pay off in a span of, it's only been since Mania. That's the crazy part of it. But they have to be smart with how they're doing this. All these plugins about $9.99 and all these signs now you're seeing with fans just so they can get on TV. It's almost sickening how they're marketing it.
And the network went global earlier on this week, and so we'll see what brings from that. I don't know if it'll necessarily double what they have now, but it's not going to hurt them. But I do agree with the thought of the can't miss events, because once you start bringing in matches like that where people are like, hey, I have to watch this live. I can't wait until to watch it the next day, or find it on the internet on YouTube. I have to watch it. And so if they could build more matches like that, that's only going to boost the popularity of the WWE.
Yeah, and I think that original content, everything. I was thinking about this today at school. I'm a teacher, so I have a lot of downtime when they're playing games to think about stuff. And I was sitting there like, okay, what could you do? And I thought they need to have these one-on-one sit-down interview. Well, I guess it'd be interviewing. They need to interview like Vince McMahon sits down with Bret Hart, talks about the Montreal screw job and what really was supposed to happen, what happened, and what went wrong with it. That's something that I would pay $9.99 to see. Now, we have really big news for the WWE 2K15 if you're excited about that. As we know, Sting and Hulk Hogan will be special features in the 2K15. Screenshots have been surfacing for both PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, and they just look amazing. And this year, story mode will be recreating classic rivalries. They have three of them that's been stated to be having. One of them is John Cena versus, yes, CM Punk. The other one will be HBK versus Triple H. They haven't yet released what the third one will be, at least not yet. Who should that last rival be that you can build up and play in the video games?
It's got to be Sting and Hogan, just for the fact that you're making these guys the pre-orders. And speaking of that, the pre-order, for $100, you get an autographed photo of Hulk Hogan. You get the an actual piece of the ring apron. I mean, it's kind of a sweet deal. Now, saying that, I'm not going to get it, but I think it's
I'm not pre-ordering that for you. Forget that.
I think it's pretty cool. But it's got to be somebody in the WCW era. Maybe it's just the rivalry between WCW and WWF at the time. I think that would be an amazing point of view for the game.
I agree with you. I think it has to be Sting and Hogan. I mean, there's different ways you can kind of take this. You could do Rock and Austin, but they've kind of done that with some of the other games with them too. So I think they might go away from that. You could even do something maybe Undertaker Kane. Um, those are options, but it was surprising to see. But I guess if you're in the industry, it probably wasn't surprising to see CM Punk in the list because they've already been working on this for so long that it would probably cost them more to take him off than it's worth.
And they've really, when you think about it, they've been working on this for 2 years, really, because last year's was their first version of it, of 2K coming out with the game, and really they bought the rights, they bought the game from a company that went out of business, and they were halfway done, and so they kind of threw it together. And so, just to base anything to go off of the NBA 2K games, I mean, I think this game is going to be amazing.
Right. One more I could see the Mega Powers being another big one you could do. You could have the Macho Man, oh yeah, and Hulk Hogan going at it.
Well, I know one that you won't see, and that is Hulk Hogan and Rowdy Piper, because
Oh, so
so
sad.
now when you and I, Jacob, first started watching the WWE, it was a show that we would watch on Thursday nights, and that was SmackDown. And the WWE hopes to at least bring one of those things back by moving SmackDown episodes from Friday nights to now Thursday nights. Will this change anything about your current thoughts on the SmackDown show?
No, it people talk about rebranding SmackDown, and you sit and think about the success SmackDown's had. They're getting closer and closer to the 1,000th episode. And when we watched it in its heyday, they had The Rock. They had Austin occasionally, not always. Undertaker was always on there. They had big matches. They didn't drown us with Raw rebounds. They didn't drown us with different things. Now, SmackDown is a glorified like basically young guys matches and let's rerun Raw. So they have a lot more than just changing the time frame, I guess, of airing it.
Now, would you have a problem with them showing SmackDown live on, say, Tuesday nights? That's when they film it. Why not show it live, clear out a space, and then you could have main event on Wednesday, you could have NXT on Thursday, and go just pretty much live early on in the weeks.
See, I think that's actually a smart idea. I'm sure they would have to obviously sci-fi would be the big one with that. The cost is probably a lot more to do a live show too. But I mean, last year I went to Raw, then I went straight to the next day to SmackDown because it was only a 2 hour difference between the two driving, and I think that's probably the way you should go. Now, will they? Probably not. But I think two live events would be pretty sweet. I don't think it will save SmackDown. What would you like to see? Because you don't really watch SmackDown on a regular basis. What would draw you back into it?
I think if they went live, just for the fact that that makes you say, hey, I need to watch this to see what happens. Because right now, Tuesday night, oh, I wonder what happens on Friday. You can get online and see exactly what happened.
Right. And if you check Twitter, you see photos, you see videos posted from SmackDown. So the fans that are the hardcore fans already know what's going to happen.
So they need to go live, and I think to get me back in it, they need to throw big matches.
Okay. For the second straight week, we have TNA news. This time, it might be a little bit better for TNA, but it's not for Dixie Carter. She took a huge power bomb off the top rope through a table. That bump caused a little increase in the ratings, not a lot, But are we going to see basically the best TNA work yet? And is this a great way for them to save the network that is TNA?
They have to be worried about talks of SmackDown moving to Thursday nights, and I'm kind of curious to see if the higher ups in WWE said, hey, we could probably get some more viewers if we just go ahead and put the last nail in the coffin on the TNA. Let's move SmackDown to Thursday. But I think that they're going to pull out all the stops. They're going to try to do their best to get a new contract, TV contract. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where they take their shows. I don't know if it's necessarily going to save them, but there were rumors that already there's some live shows that are being canceled. So we'll just time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, I think Spike did this. If they were smart, they would have done this as, okay, look, we're canceling you, but give us the best you absolutely can give us. If they get a big enough increase, they'll be like, okay, we'll renew this with you for a 1 year deal and continue hopefully off that momentum. The problem TNA has is it's exactly like WCW had. They relied way too much on these older established athletes, and then when they had these younger talents like an AJ Styles, who's now at Ring of Honor, they let them go because they weren't established, but that's your future. And TNA relied too much on the Hardy Boys, Bully Ray, all these people that you can't really build a future off of.
Well, and that's what sells the majority of the people, though. Unless you're a hardcore fan, you're not going to know. And so you've got to have this little mix of both.
Right, and the only time I actually watched the Hardy Boys reunion against the Wolves or whatever they're called, and then I only watch it because of the Hardy Boys. So you're right on that.
Now, besides pay-per-views, there hasn't been a whole lot of WCW content on the WWE network for fans like us to get excited about. But in prep for the Monday Night Wars documentary that's going to be airing later on, WWE has announced that they will be releasing every Monday Night Nitro episode. You got to be excited for this. And anything come to mind, Jacob, when you're thinking going back watching a Monday night episode?
I First of all, I think this is long overdue, but like I said, the network hasn't been out that long. Going back, I would love to see some of the garbage. Honestly, we sit and we put Nitro and WCW such on a high pedestal because we're so young. And if you really go back and look, the quality was horrible. They had no management skills whatsoever. They had one point where Hulk Hogan opened a box and it was a mannequin head of himself. And he's like, oh my gosh. And he's freaking out about it. And you're like, really? That was us. But we were like, that's the greatest thing ever.
What I'm excited to do is go back, track down the episode where they were at Market Square Arena,
Yeah.
and see if we can see ourselves on there. See if I can, like you said, I mean, they put out a lot of garbage when you look back at it,
They did.
and see if I can see myself Disco Infernoing in the background or something like that. So I'm definitely going to be checking out any match that I can find where we were there, just to go back memory lane. I'm definitely going to watch the Hogan and Goldberg match on Nitro. I've been waiting to watch that. I know it's on YouTube and all of that, but just to see like the build up and things like that around it.
Yeah, and you can kind of relive the glory days of Goldberg's streak, the development of Sting, coming from the Raptors and stuff. So you have the high points in that, but it also, like we've said before, this will make people buy because there's nowhere else besides maybe the internet, but that's hard to find these episodes on the internet.
And it's amazing because they're all HD, they're all high quality, and yeah, I mean it's hundreds of thousands of hours that they're going to be unloading here shortly.
This week's special segment, we have a special guest from PW Mania. He's one of the premier writers from the wrestling website. His name is Will McCormick. Will, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you guys very much. I'm very happy to be here.
All right, we're excited for this SummerSlam preview prediction. So we're going to get in with Will here and talk a little bit about him. So what did you grow up watching?
I grew up watching WCW and WWF at the exact same time. In my living room, I had two different TVs, and they were both on every Monday and Thursday night. So I watched WCW until the very end, and I watched, all the way through. A couple of my favorite guys were in CW were I was a huge Raven guy, big Goldberg kid, and I had a thing for Scott Hall. There was just something about the way that he wrestled that I really liked. And in WF, I had Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I had The Rock. Those were the two big guys too.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you have a favorite match that maybe stands out?
My first big memories go back to Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Mania 13 with the I Quit match, because I look at that as Bret Hart did everything that he could to try to break Stone Cold Steve Austin, like mentally and physically, and he just couldn't do it. So like that just like made him my guy. If the established order couldn't take this guy down, then he must really be something to grab onto, and then he became Stone Cold. So that's definitely my favorite match of all time. Without that match, I'm probably not that big of a wrestling fan.
Now, to feed off the first thing, you said you had the two TVs set up. Is this something that's been passed on from generation to generation with your parents, or how did you get started with that, with the two TVs?
My mom was actually completely against me watching wrestling in every way when I was young. Because I started young. I think I started like 6, 7, somewhere in there. Like I don't even know the first time I officially watched wrestling. I think my dad was just in the living room one day watching it because it was big, like at the time, and he was just kind of like, "Hey, son, like come watch this." And from there, it just kind of stemmed, and I just started having memories of Austin and the I Quit match and early WCW and things like that. So it sort of happens. It hasn't passed from generation to generation. I guess it just sort of clicked with me, and it's stuck for this long. I mean, I've been watching it almost 20 years now.
Now, since we're long past the WCW days, what's your current thoughts on the just the current product that WWE puts out?
As a writer for Mania, I get a lot of different opinions, and I get a lot of positive, feedback, but I also get a lot of negative, this is wrong, why is this guy always in the main event? And I watch the product now, and I'm watching the page turn, and I'm watching, the next generation come in, and I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. I think we're watching an ocean of new talent from NXT and everywhere else come up, and the indies with Steen getting signed today and everything. And I think the product is the best it's been in a really long time, and I can't believe that people don't really notice that as much.
Yeah, I'm gonna feed off that. I quit watching back in probably about 2006. And I'd go back and watch some of that stuff, and I understand why I quit. And really, I'll be honest with you, I've talked about this before. I came back and watched wrestling. The only reason I did was because Y2J came back, and it's right when he got suspended for drop kicking the flag, whatever, in Mexico. Came back, wrestled John Cena and Vicky Guerrero and all that. And that's how I got back into it. But the stuff we have now is a lot better than what we had in like 08 and different things. But I have one last – yeah.
It was 06. Like, that was Edge's rise to the top, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was Edge's time. Yeah, and I had nothing against Edge. It just he wasn't established in my mind. But real quick, since you are a writer in one of the premier wrestling websites, do you find it hard to be unbiased when you're writing about pro wrestling?
I try not to be negative. I try really hard not to be negative. Because it's difficult sometimes, and you'll see in some of these choices I'm going to make, and some of the opinions I have, that sometimes, like, I'm like anybody else. I have my guys and my girls. I have my favorites and my least favorites, and but as a writer, I got to understand that some people like they get their message and they understand what these wrestlers are about. So it's just not about, it's about not being overly disrespectful. You can disagree and debate and have fun, but you can't attack someone, based on someone else's morals. That just because you don't understand it, that doesn't mean it's not good.
Now, before we get into our picks, do you have some social media that you kind of want to throw out there where people can find you? Of course, your articles on pwmania.com, but anything else, Twitter or anything?
Yep. I have Twitter. I'm William McCormick Esquire. I can spell it for you. It's WMCCORMICKESQ. All my articles go there, and I have a pretty good fan base. So come talk to me about wrestling. It's pretty fun.
All right. Well, we're going to get right into the picks. Just to remind everybody, I am the current Harrell pay-per-view prediction champion. So I'm bringing in I'm going for the third straight month. So first of its
best
kind
in the world.
Yes, that's right. So we don't have a pre-show scheduled yet, but we kind of been talking, and if they do, the rumor is kind of an Usos versus Rybaxel, the Dust Brothers, and the Wyatt family for the title. Now, Will, on just what's your thoughts and your pick on that if they were to do a four-way tag team title match?
I think if they didn't want to continue the Wyatts versus the Usos after those two gems that they had, I don't think that the title's getting dropped at all. I think the Usos are taking it down no matter who they face, really.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm gonna go with you on that. I'm gonna go the Usos, just so I think that they can carry it on till next month and maybe have another big title match for Night of Champions. What's your thoughts, Jacob?
Well, we know where we're going with this. I definitely think that this should be in the main card. There's no reason that this should be even a question, but the Wyatt's going to take it. They're going to take it at SummerSlam. They're going to have all these lights flashing. It's going to be a glorious moment. The sun will shine on the Wyatt family.
And this is why you haven't won the belt yet.
That's exactly why. Plus this... Yeah, especially this next pick. So our next one, we're going to go into the Intercontinental Championship match. It's going to be The Miz, the Hollywood Miz, we can call him, and Dolph Ziggler. So, Will, what's your thoughts on this match?
This is actually my favorite title in this company, and I'm really kind of upset that I don't care more about it right now. It has nothing to do with Miz. They were really going somewhere with Barrett, and it feels like it's filler until Barrett comes back, So I think Miz retains. I think Ziggler is a decent opponent. I'm glad to see him on the card doing something, but I think you don't build Miz up like that to just take the title off him at SummerSlam,
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm gonna agree with you again. I think that the Miz is going to bring some of the prestige back to the belt, and just. There's no sense of passing it around until Barrett gets back and maybe starts a new feud like that. So I'm going to say The Miz as well.
Yeah, sadly, I'm a Ziggler guy, and it's not going to happen. There's like you said, there's no reason for it. Ziggler won't benefit any from an Intercontinental Championship belt, so Miz will retain.
Moving on to the first of two Divas matches, I guess you could say. We've got AJ Lee, the champion, with a rematch against Paige. Do you think that AJ, there's any chance that she's going to drop the belt on SummerSlam, Will?
I just want to say quickly that Paige's heel turn has been wonderful to watch. I think it's added a whole another level to her character. I'm kind of in a pickle with this one. And I don't really think it matters because I think this feud has legs. So I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which one wins. If I got to choose, I think AJ keeps it.
I'm gonna go opposite on this one. I'm gonna say that Paige is going to get the belt back, and I think that it almost pushes kind of the opposite way that it does with the tag team belt. I think this makes it a bigger match, that it's been passed around back and forth leading up to Night of Champions.
Mm-hmm. See, and my pick would be Eva Marie. I'm sorry. I'm going to go with AJ Lee. I'm going to say she's going to retain. I do love Paige being a heel. I'm a huge Paige fan. I've said stuff before that you say, quote me on this, like Bo Dallas is going to be the IC champion by by Mania. That's not going to happen now. But I see this being WrestleMania match, and finally bringing a Divas match into WrestleMania.
Really?
Yep, I see this being on that WrestleMania page. I think this is
I-
almost to the level of Trish and Lita in the future. Not right now, obviously, but it could be at that state.
I kind of see AJ versus Stephanie as a Mania match, but that's just me.
Okay.
And moving on to the next match, we have another rematch from the last pay-per-view. The Real American Jack Swagger and Rusev will be facing off again. Have you been enjoying this feud that they've got going on, Will?
I've loved this feud. I'm actually if you're a Paul Heyman guy, that's cool, but I'm definitely a Lana guy. She's definitely the hottest of all the managers. I've loved this feud. I think it's put a ton of wind into Swagger's sails, but I think Rusev is probably winning this to keep his momentum going as the unstoppable monster. But I mean, it would be a good place for him to lose too.
And see, the only problem I have is I don't know where you would take him once he loses. I don't see him being built as much to have a loss or two here and there. So I'm going to say Rusev's going to continue to win. What are you thinking, Jacob?
See, I so badly want to just put my hand on my heart and say, we the people. But like you said, I don't know if he's built for that. But I would argue that they might carry it on like they did with Bray Wyatt, one more match with Rusev getting revenge over Swagger and finally beating Swagger if he would lose. But I'm going to go with Rusev. I'm just throwing. All right. Well, then we have kind of one of the bigger matches of the night, Roman Reigns and Randy Orton. Will, who do you think will win this one?
There's what I want to happen, and then there's what I think is going to happen. I want Orton to win this because I think, again, this feud has legs. I think this could keep going because it was supposed to be Trips versus Reigns, but they put in Orton instead. I think Reigns is going to win. I'm going with Reigns for the actual win.
I'm going to go the same way with Reigns, just so that they continue to build him. He obviously is going to be the next main eventer, and he's got to get some high-quality wins before we start getting to the road to WrestleMania, before they're seriously going to consider him on, the top shelf.
I see, and I think what's going to happen is, and what I've heard from people is that they want to kind of do a Reigns Triple H at Mania, so they would almost do what they did with Daniel Bryan and kind of screw him over. But I don't think this is big enough to kind of build off of like that. So I'm going to go with Roman Reigns to win also.
Hopefully, this pay-per-view we will finally get to see Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins lock up, and they decided it's going to be a lumberjack match. Do you see a clear winner in this match, Will?
I know a lot of people were bummed by the lumberjack thing because they were like, oh, well, why didn't you go after the contract, or why isn't it a cage match? I think they have some really creative ideas to use this, because I was just thinking the other day, when was the last time we had a lumberjack match? I think this feud ends when Ambrose wins. It's 101 when the face goes over. So I think Rollins, to keep building heat, probably beats Ambrose. Probably not clean, but I think he wins.
I'm going to go with Rollins as well. I think that this is going to continue to be almost non-contest until we get to a Hell in a Cell, where, like you were kind of talking, a cage, get everything strapped in, you can't do anything about it, and then I think that'll be finally when Ambrose will get his revenge and basically move on from the feud.
See, I think these two, I think people would pay to see a 60-minute Iron Man match with these two, because they work so well and they trust each other so much that would be a perfect thing for it. But I can't remember, honestly, last time. I had to be a Raw probably when they had a lumberjack match. But I'm going to go with Seth Rollins still. I think that they will carry this over and probably even make it to close to Rumble before they would switch over.
That would be awesome.
All right. So my favorite wrestler of all times, Chris Jericho, will be facing Bray Wyatt at SummerSlam. They've kind of switched it up a little bit, make it a little bit more serious, and the Wyatt family is banned from ringside. What do you think of this, Will?
I love this match because it's a way of rebuilding Wyatt all over again. Even though, in my opinion, he never really lost anything to begin with, but people think that after the Cena feud that he kind of lost some fire. But I think that this is what brings it back up. I think Wyatt wins this one, and especially without the family there, I think he wins it hands down.
This is another one I'm agreeing with you on. I'm going to go with Wyatt as well. I think that this kind of separates him from his followers to where they can kind of go do their own tag team stuff. And, we don't have to actually have them out there every single match to, make the Bray Wyatt character larger. But I'm going to go with Wyatt winning this.
Yeah, I think this is also going to repay, like you said, Will. This is kind of repayment for losing at Mania because he lost so much momentum going from Mania and losing at that big of a stage. So I see Bray winning. I think it's going to be a fantastic match. Anything that Jericho can do basically turns out good. So I see Jericho finally putting over Bray.
I'm putting my stamp on this. I think that this is going to be the match of the night.
Match of the night.
That's a good pick.
Now, what's been the most talked about match, and will probably, with so much hype, probably be the most disappointing match of the night. We have Brie Bella and Stephanie McMahon going at each other. Do you see a winner out of this match, or are you excited for this match?
I can't say I'm excited, but I'm not exactly hating it. Well, I mean, it ultimately comes down to how do they want to play it? Do they want to keep this feud going for a while and turn Nikki heel, or do they want to kind of just one and done? Because if it's a one and done, Bella's winning. Because I personally think Stephanie's made Brie look kind of dumb on the mic, and this is where Brie has the advantage. So I think if it's a one and done, Brie wins, and that's what I'm going with. But if they want to keep it going, I think Stephanie wins through some kind of weird McMahon trickery stuff.
I'm going to go with the weird McMahon trickery. I think she's going to win some cheatingly somehow, and I think it could even maybe even set up a sisters match later on down the road, a Bella sister match. Somehow Nikki's going to get involved, and it's probably not going to go very well. So I'm going to go Stephanie McMahon, and just hoping that, because I'm enjoying it, and so we'll see if it continues after this pay-per-view and see where it goes. But who are you thinking, Jacob?
See, I'm with you, Jonathan. I think this could almost be the first ever Diva main event. The way they've been building on Raw because of the part-timers of John and Brock, this has been the SummerSlam kind of showcase. Now, it shouldn't be, obviously, but it had the potential to be. I think Brie will probably win, get over for the crowd for the next match, which I'll talk about. But I see Brie winning. I honestly think the Nikki will happen at SummerSlam. She'll have a turn on him, and then she'll join the corporation, or the authority, I should say, not the corporation. It's not the 90s anymore. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. I have Brie winning, though.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then we have the main event of the night. What everyone's been kind of waiting for, or maybe not, depending on your preference. We have the basically Superman John Cena, the champion, facing the Streak Killer and hopefully Cena Killer as Brock Lesnar. What do you think's going to happen on this main event, Will?
I think Brock Lesnar conquered the streak. I am 100% down with a Lesnar rant. I want him to win so badly.
Do you see problems, though, with him being part-time, or is it Heyman that's going to be the one carrying the other feuds?
See, Heyman actually made a really good point this week in the news where he was saying that because the title has been defended like on a month-by-month basis, that it's kind of losing its steam a little bit. That, how do I put it? That it's lost its prestige because it's defended so much. I actually kind of disagree with that because I think it being defended so often is actually a really good thing, and it builds, a champion. But the way he sold it it's like Lesnar could not be there, and when he actually does get to fight, it's going to be a much bigger deal. Like when he finally gets the title taken off of him by somebody, it's going to be a big deal.
And I think that's why I'm going with Brock Lesnar. Just to it's going to be a must see when he's going to be wrestling with the championship, to see who's going to take down the guy that took down the streak, that beat John Cena, and so I think adding everything up adds up to a Brock Lesnar win.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. I'm going with Brock Lesnar. I don't agree, and I'm 100% against part-time wrestlers, but the only way they can justify The Undertaker losing to the fans is if Brock Lesnar would go out and lose to John Cena. I think places would have riots because of just the implications that will have over everything. So I honestly could see Brock Lesnar not even defending it on a month-to-month basis. He might even be rebellious and skip out on a couple matches because his contract won't allow him to have a whole leading up to Rumble. So could you see possibly Roman Reigns beating Brock, or could even a Money in the Bank cash-in happen before the Rumble?
That's what I'm looking at. Is everyone's looking at Lesnar and Cena, but what I'm looking at is Seth Rollins. Because the rumors are Lesnar's going to beat him and then hold the title for what? Mania's in March, so what we're talking the next 7 months. What happens to Seth Rollins? Like, if let's say Reigns does beat him at Mania and a superstar is born, which is great for Reigns, but then doesn't he have to have this long title reign to kind of cement himself? Like, where does Rollins fit in here? That pretty much guarantees that Rollins is going to cash in and lose at some point.
We will go over our picks next week on our recap of SummerSlam, but we want to thank you, Will, for coming on the show and just spend your evening talking some wrestling with us.
Thanks, it was fun, guys.
And like we said, you can find his articles at pwmania.com and look him up on Twitter.
Best bet on the internet.
So we'll definitely have you back again, and hope that your picks show up and you know what you're talking about. So we'll have to check it out.
Our writers the people might not be viewing your blogs if some of these go wrong.
Yeah, this could really hurt my
credibility.
Cred, my street cred.
All right. Well, thank you again, Will.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Now, I have checked out some of Will's articles on pwmania.com, and I'm going to say they're pretty good, and I'm glad, with him being a Boston sports fan, that some of those Boston teams haven't affected his writing ability.
He's not a true Boston, though. I mean, he kind of went against John Cena there with Lesnar.
Yeah. But moving on to our final parts of our show, we will discuss first what to watch on the WWE Network. Got a couple new things coming out. WrestleMania Rewind 15, Stone Cold versus The Rock. There's the Beyond the Ring of Brock Lesnar. But anything, Jacob, that you've kind of had your eye on, or anything new?
I can't wait for that Stone Cold The Rock. I loved the Rock versus Hogan rewind they did, and I previously watched the Undertaker in the Triple H one, and I like that show a lot. The Beyond the Ring with Lesnar will be cool. I enjoy for the most part the documentaries, so it'll be exciting to see that.
And I'm kind of bummed with some of the Beyond the Ring, just because it's almost a condensed version. You know, they have a 3-hour documentary DVD that you've seen, and then all of a sudden it's 1 hour, and here it is, condensed version of it.
They take the matches out that you would have, and that's usually how they condense it. Sorry.
Now, we did have one new item in the WWE shop this week. You want to support our show, just go to our website, and anything you buy through the website on the WWE shop, we'll just go to support us, and we're getting some support now, so we want to thank all our listeners. But John Cena had his red and yellow gear that just came out. Are you going to pick this up for the Cena Nation?
If I pick it up, I'm going to burn it. But I mean, They also, I was just looking on on my iPad here. They have the Brock Lesnar Conquer John Cena T-shirts. So get that for the next week, and then it's unrelevant, or I guess irrelevant for the rest of the year. So that's something you could look into.
Yeah, it's almost like a commemorative,
Right.
a commemorative coin or something because they had all the Lesnar beats the streak, and so those are kind of relevant. But then eventually, what are you gonna still wear these for?
Right. And John Cena was talking about getting rid of the wristbands and shirts, so that will definitely destroy the sales of WWE shop if you did that.
Yeah, and so you did notice that the wristbands and the towels and the hats, and you can go all color
Yeah.
coded. So birthdays and anniversaries for the week. Really, we're just going to stick with birthdays this week, but Hulk Hogan, like we said earlier in the show, on August 11th was 61, and Spike Dudley, he turned 44 on the 13th. So happy birthday to both of them.
I actually did find an anniversary this week. When I was looking, I will double check the date and I will apologize next week because it's probably wrong. But August 8th, Chris Jericho made his Millennium debut on Raw to spar with The Rock. And what did he say, Jonathan? He goes, "What's your name?" It doesn't matter what your name is.
And that is why Sting, to this day, has not shown up in the WWE yet. For scenes like that, for scenes with Booker T.
Booker T was the big one he always talked about, and it's always The Rock that was the reason too. Where he's like, "Who the heck are you?"
But I will say that I was pretty pumped watching those countdowns, and at the time, we didn't have these internet things and everything to check, and so we didn't know what was going on, and so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and he looked fantastic too, and it's something that WCW definitely wasted with letting Jericho go.
Now, thought it'd be kind of cool just for our casual listeners that maybe not heavily into wrestling. We're gonna go 2 minutes here and just maybe talk a off wrestling topic, and Robin Williams, the tragedy that happened earlier on this week with him. We figured why not come up with some of our favorite Robin Williams movies. So I don't know if you had a chance, Jacob, to think about this, but you got any movies that come to mind?
All-time favorite movie. You probably never seen it. Death to Smoochie is
Oh
my
my
favorite.
God.
It's the worst movie ever made. Jon Stewart's in it, and it's terrible, but I love it to death because of the rocket ships that are shaped like something we can't say because we'll blurp it out, just like our interview we had last week. But I enjoy that. Give me another one you like, and then we'll kind of shoot off that.
I can't believe I got a list here, and I actually thought about this. And here you give Death to Smoochie. I haven't heard that since I moved out of our parents' house, and you had the DVD.
I mean, you got Patch Adams. Obviously, it's a classic movie. You have
Here's my list, and
let's give you your list.
you're gonna see how young I am when I give these off.
Okay.
When you have some older people are like, "Are you serious?" Favorite Robin Williams movies. So Flubber, I liked Flubber. Uh, Hook, the Peter Pan.
Right.
But my top two, and I was debating on which, and so I'm just gonna say it's a draw. I've got Jumanji and Mrs. Doubtfire.
Okay.
So those are my top Robin Williams movies.
Okay. See, now, if I was going to be serious and I was going to be a cinematic critic, I would have to say the two best movies he's ever done would be, or ever performed in, would be Patch Adams and also Dead Poet Society. Just how critically acclaimed those are. Some of my favorites, I loved Good Morning Vietnam. I love that movie. I mean, Mrs. Doubtfire's a classic, but he's also the voice of the genie, so
Yeah,
Aladdin's also a good
I'm
plug
gonna
in.
mention that in there as well. So to finish off our show, we're gonna go into our leaving thoughts and challenges. I'm gonna throw 30 seconds on the clock for you, Jacob, and let's see what you got to talk about this week.
All right, my challenge is to you fans who want to be on TV so bad, you'll make a $9.99 poster, a John $9.99 poster. think of something incredibly creative rather than laziness like that. The guy who made the Bo Dallas Love fish sticks, I applaud you. I would stand up right now if I wasn't sitting down in a chair and just applaud how creative that was. We made a huge banner that said the Shield is the future now, and then they broke up that day. You can't beat that kind of stuff right there.
So I might rant just for the fact that you said I'm going to stand up and applaud you, but I'm sitting down. That may get it, but I'm gonna go on my original topic. I went to Walmart earlier. I'm gonna get fired up here, and I'm gonna go 0 to 100 in about 2 seconds here. Amy, the princess, and I were at Walmart. She gets ran over by some fat kids that thought the shopping cart was a bobsled. You don't have to stand around the milk carton area and have a union meeting. You know, if you want to have a chat, go in the parking lot. You got to open more than 2 registers as well, because nobody wants to stand in line with 40 people and waiting on 2 registers. Let's class it up a little bit, Walmart.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. At least you did not shoot someone in the face at Walmart.
I could have gotten to the point of shooting somebody in the face.
All right, you got to give me your finally. You got to mock my finally I did at the beginning. Throw that out there.
Yeah.
Throw it out there. No, you got to do your impression. Do yours.
No, I'm good. I think I'm all right. I still can't believe that you did Death to Smoochie.
Or, hey, my new gig is I'm going to definitely do impressions, so. Thank you for listening to Harrell Wrestling Talk. Listen and watch our next podcast every Friday. We would love to have fan interaction, so follow us at Twitter at HWT Podcast, like us at Facebook at HWT Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, HWT Podcast. Feel free to give feedback, corrections, and any advice is always welcome. We would love to have sponsorships. Contact us at Harrell, Harrell, Wrestling Talk at Outlook.com. Last advice we will give you before we leave: if your girlfriend, wife, boyfriend, or husband says you watch too much wrestling, tell them that's impossible. Till next time, Wrestling World, keep listening and keep watching.